did you happen to catch the Gruber grilling over there at the committee that was formed to investigate his statements about Obamacare? Did you happen to catch that on Tuesday?
Well, actually, I was just going to ask you about that. I caught some of it, but I know that you're really up to date on it, and I was just going to ask you about that because the House committee there, I mean, ISIS, Daryl, they grilled him, and I want you to comment on it, but I was watching this weasel, and I wanted to puke listening to this guy. I mean, listen, this is your time. You tell the people, what's your take on what happened? What did you see? You might not have wanted to puke. You might have thought Gruber was a hero or something. I don't know.
Okay, I see where you're going. No, Jonathan Gruber, by the way, for those who don't know, he's the MIT professor who was paid millions of dollars by the American people to be the chief architect for Obamacare.
Yep.
Here's a quote from Gruber. Some people started posting these quotes from Gruber. I guess he didn't realize that we live in the cell phone technology age now, where everything is recorded, basically, and everything that's done in public is recorded anyway. But somebody posted some comments by Jonathan Gruber, the chief architect for Obamacare, and here's one of them. He said, quote, "Call it the stupidity of the American voter or whatever, but basically that was really critical for this thing, that being Obamacare, to pass." So they were relying, the chief architect for Obamacare was relying heavily, in fact, he's saying it was critical for Obamacare to pass, the quote-unquote stupidity of the American people.
Right.
The American voter.
The
whole time, weasel is a great way to describe this man. He weaseled his way through the interrogation by Daryl Issa and all these guys. It really was something to behold. I had to watch it on Fox News because it was panned by CNN. They were when the Gruber grilling was happening, CNN was going hot and heavy on the CIA torture documents that were released.
Right.
They were going all self-loathing and America's evil. That was all happening on CNN while the Gruber grilling was happening because CNN was always been in bed with the Obama camp and Obamacare and all that. So this is sort of a slam on them also that it's been revealed that Obamacare was passed based entirely on the stupidity, quote unquote, of the American people.
Right.
And while I was listening to Gruber speak there, I kept thinking, why doesn't he just come clean and admit that he was right? And the only evidence that we need that he's right, that Obamacare passed based on the stupidity of the American voter, is just take a look at who's in the White House.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's all Gruber would have to say, and Daryl Issa would have to say, I guess we're going to have to close this session because you're absolutely right. When Barack Obama won his first and second terms, it was essentially the stupid people who won.
Right.
And I don't say that lightly. I say that based entirely on the fact that it looks like the American population, the American voters, were duped into voting for this man. He lied about who he was, and now we know exactly who he is based on his very own comments. He has flip-flopped on everything he's ever said, and lied about everything. Like the old saying, if you want to know if Obama's lying, just watch and see if his lips are moving. But listen, when I was watching all of this on Fox News, Carl, they had on former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, and he was the color commentator. And he said, when they asked him his opinion when all this was going on, his opening salvo was this, Carl. And I know you know where I'm going with this, and this is really amazing. He said that Gruber is a professor, and he really emphasized that Gruber is a professor at MIT.
Right.
He used a deceptive model to deceive the American people, and that's very important wording there. He's a professor who used a deceptive model to deceive the American people.
Right.
And then Giuliani went on to finish with this. He said, how many other professors have used other deceptive models?
I know where you're going with this.
Thank you. Yes.
And you and I haven't even talked about this, but you go ahead. I know where you're going with it.
Right, to deceive the American people. And I could not wonder, boy, is Giuliani a P.P. Simmons fan?
I know.
Because we've been saying for a long time that the professors and the educators in the United States, the elitist educators in the United States, are using deceptive models as a form of teaching lies, and they set these things up as straw men, and they build up the straw man as the truth. Then these children are graduating from schools, going through life believing that the straw man is the truth, and it's all one big fat giant lie.
Right.
And of course, we're talking about certain models like Ray Comfort. He went into certain places of higher learning with his video cameras, and he made appointments, and he interviewed some of these so-called professors about a certain model.
Right.
And the model is deep-time fish-to-man evolution.
Right.
That over billions of years, fish turned into human beings.
Right.
That's the model.
An accidental primordial soup developed and created 20 million different species of life with all their systems, their subsystems, their sub-subsystems down to the quanta level, and intelligence and thoughts and planning and creativity, and then, of course, expressed in the ultimate of all species, man, which is a universe apart from the next smartest species out of 20 million, and that all happened by accident, and that's what's being taught. And you and I are saying, and we've been screaming all along, they started with a deceptive, defective model, these professors of lies.
Exactly. And Giuliani really hit the nail on the head there with this guy. This guy is a professor who used a deceptive model to deceive the people.
Absolutely.
And these people are professors, and they're believed based entirely on the structure of the power setting in these in the MIT, Harvard, Yale, and all that. There is a power structure in place where they never question the power holders. They just believe everything that's fed them, like Obamacare. People believe that Obamacare would be the saving grace of the American healthcare system. That people. The American healthcare system is the greatest healthcare system on the planet. I know it is. I've experienced it in several countries, and I've had major surgery in the United States. I'm not talking from a place of ignorance here. Right. I happen to know that the United States medical system is the best. The financial end of it was destroyed by the lawyers.
Right.
If people want to fix the American healthcare system, they just need to get the lawyers out.
Thank you.
Stop putting a lawyer between you and your doctor.
Thank you.
And stop trying to sue. I'm getting off on a tangent here, Carl. But anyway, Ray Comfort, he went into some of these places of higher learning, and he interviewed some of these professors who are promoting this deceptive model of fish-to-man deep time evolution, and said, okay, give me your best evidence that fish turned into people, deep time fish-to-man evolution.
Yeah,
he didn't use those exact words.
This is great where you're going.
When he said, give me your best evidence for evolution, they knew what he was talking about, right?
Right.
So they said, well, was evolution a fact? Yes, it is, they said. All right, give me your best evidence that it's a fact. And they said, well, certain bacteria have evolved the ability to digest certain foods that they beforehand could not digest, and like E. coli eating bacteria, nylon eating bacteria, et cetera, et cetera. Not E. coli eating bacteria, but E. coli. Anyway, they were using examples of bacteria turning into bacteria.
Right.
That was their best evidence.
That's right. Their best evidence, by their own mouth, their best evidence is that bacteria have always been bacteria. Even though there's some slight changes within them, that's our best evidence.
Right, and I think the E. coli example is they were able to digest, I think it was citrus or something like that. But anyway, the example is the best evidence they have, folks, is that bacteria turn into bacteria. That's the evidence they have that fish turn into human beings, folks. That is a deceptive model they're using to deceive people, is the deep time fish-to-man evolution. Right. Now we're discovering that they're discovering red blood cells on dinosaurs now. Right. And the evidence for a recent biological creation, by recent I mean over the past several thousand years, not several billion years, is overwhelming, but it gets suppressed because it flies in the face of the deceptive model. Right. And Jonathan Gruber really is a fine example of this model, this deception model, because he stands up there as a professor from MIT saying, we are relying on the stupidity of people to promote our agenda. And what's the agenda when it comes to evolution? The agenda is elitists running everybody because the elitists know better than everybody, and we use atheism as the tool to do that.
Good.
You know, if people are empowered by God, they're empowered by a power that exists outside of us,
right,
and that can empower us to do great and mighty things. Well, if we are empowered to do great and mighty things by the Almighty God, that means the elitists lose power.
Exactly, and that's what it's all about. All right, Mike Shoesmith, listen, we were talking about the elitists losing their power and how that's connected to some very important issues. Take it from there.
Yeah, you know, this whole Jonathan Gruber deal exposing the reality that the liberal mindset is that we have to rely on the stupidity of the people, not just the American people, but people in general, to get our control tentacles into every aspect of human life. So what they do is they promote liberalism, which is defined in the dictionary as an unrestricted lifestyle. They say, look, we're going to remove all the restrictions, just do whatever you want, and let us worry about where your health care is going to come from when you get sick from doing this all-you-want stuff. And just let us take care of you, from cradle to grave. The nanny state moves in and takes over when the elitists say, look, don't worry about what's in the news, just watch Simpsons, go figure out what your favorite beer is, and just have a good old party time because you're here for a good time, not a long time, as the song goes. And Jonathan Gruber really does illustrate and Rudolph Giuliani really does illustrate the very real dynamic in the world, in the Western world, that when the liberals are allowed to promote this ideology of liberalism, it becomes a totalitarian system in the wake, in the vacuum. And New York City is a grand example.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Of how totalitarian systems and totalitarianism rises with the rise of liberalism. Because in New York City, we have there are many victims in the battle against liberalism when liberalism wins. The victim list is enormous. Here are two victims. Many people will know these two: Eric Garner and Officer Daniel Portaleo. These are two victims of the totalitarian system which rises within the culture of liberalism. When liberalism is allowed to flourish, totalitarianism, which is the elitists taking over, fills in the vacuum and takes over, and they start deciding, for example, what size big gulp you can have, and what you're going to serve your kids in school, et cetera, whether you can have a handgun to protect your family. All this stuff becomes a reality in the microcosm of New York City when liberalism is allowed to take over.
Right.
And so we've got a string of liberal New York City mayors, which have Bloomberg and the guy there now, I forget his name, but these two liberal giants have turned New York City into this totalitarian state where microcosm, which very much looks like what America will look like if the liberals are allowed to take over on a national stage. So pay close attention to New York City, because when I say that Eric Garner is a victim along with Daniel Portaleo, because let's face it, Eric, the price of cigarettes is outrageous in New York City because of the taxes.
Right.
So here we have this guy Eric Garner selling loose cigarettes in New York City as the underground economy takes root, because people can't afford stuff because of the taxes, and the taxes are onerous in New York City. They're outrageous. Right. So here we have Daniel Portaleo, who works as a city police officer and who's supposed to be considered a hero, acting as a tax collector agent for the city.
Exactly.
I mean, this is an abomination what's happening there. And listen, folks, if you want to indict anybody, indict the lawmakers in New York City.